Air travel is one of the safest modes of transportation in the world. Millions of passengers fly every day, trusting that every rule, regulation, and procedure exists to protect them. But behind the sleek cabins and meticulously timed schedules, there's a safety rule that airlines quietly dislike. It's not widely discussed, yet it has the power to disrupt operations, frustrate executives, and sometimes cost airlines millions. Today, we're uncovering the aviation safety rule that airlines secretly hate. Airlines are in the business of efficiency. Turnarounds, tight schedules, and on-time arrivals are not just priorities, they're lifelines. But in this high-pressure environment, safety regulations are non-negotiable. One particular rule, often brushed under the carpet in industry conversations, challenges everything airlines strive for: speed. This rule is simple on paper, but in practice, it creates headaches that airlines rarely talk about, and it revolves around the mandatory rest periods for pilots and crew. Visuals, cockpit shots, pilots checking instruments, flight attendants preparing the cabin. You might think pilots need rest, of course. And yes, from a passenger's perspective, it makes perfect sense. Exhausted crew members are a risk no one wants to take. But for airlines, these rest requirements are complicated and expensive. The rule explained. The Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA in the US, and similar authorities worldwide, like the Civil Aviation Authority in the UK or CASA in Australia, enforce strict rules. Pilots cannot fly beyond a certain number of hours, and they must have a minimum amount of rest between flights. Here's how it works. A long-haul pilot might be limited to 8 or 9 flight hours in a day. After landing, the same pilot must rest for a period that can range from 10 to 14 hours, depending on the flight's length and time of day. Even minor violations can trigger penalties, grounding, or fines. On paper, this is common sense. Safety first always. But here, SY airlines quietly bristle. These mandatory rest periods can disrupt entire schedules, create costly delays, and require airlines to hire more staff just to cover the gaps. Imagine a transatlantic flight delayed by an hour, then another, then another. Suddenly, a perfectly timed schedule for multiple crews is thrown into chaos. Airlines are forced to shuffle crews, often paying overtime or, in worst-case scenarios, canceling flights altogether. The financial stakes are enormous. Segment 3, Real-World Impact. For passengers, it's frustrating: delays, longer layovers, sometimes even missed connections. But for airlines, it's a hidden operational nightmare. One executive, speaking off the record, admitted that these rest regulations are the most hated rules in aviation. Why? Because while safety regulations like maintenance checks or security procedures are predictable and easily planned for, human fatigue is variable. You can schedule a plane to be ready, but if the crew has reached their limit, the flight cannot depart. No amount of money or corporate pressure can override the law. Pilots cannot, and will not, fly when they're legally fatigued. It's a rule that protects passengers but complicates every spreadsheet and scheduling software in the industry. The consequences ripple through the airline ecosystem. Ground crews must wait. Air traffic control slots shift. Maintenance teams are rescheduled, and the chain reaction can affect hundreds of passengers in a single day. Yet despite the operational headaches, this rule exists for a reason. Aviation accidents caused by pilot fatigue have historically been catastrophic. From small incidents to major tragedies, studies consistently show that tired pilots make more errors. Airlines may hate the rule, but the reality is undeniable. Fatigue kills. Why airlines struggle with compliance. So why do airlines struggle so much with this rule? First, global scheduling is incredibly complex. Pilots and crew often operate on multiple time zones, crossing continents and oceans. Fatigue isn't linear, it accumulates. Second, the industry operates on razor-thin margins. Delays caused by rest requirements don't just cost time, they cost money. And third, airline culture often prioritizes on-time performance above all else. The tension is constant, the drive for punctuality versus the mandate for rest. Airlines have invested in sophisticated scheduling software, predictive analytics, and backup crew pools, all to minimize the impact. But no system can eliminate the fact that humans are not machines. In essence, this single rule forces airlines to confront a truth they'd rather ignore. Planes can be replaced, schedules can be shifted, but human limitations cannot. And for passengers, how airlines navigate the rule. So how do airlines navigate this safety rule without spiraling into chaos? The answer lies in careful planning and redundancy. Airlines often maintain reserve crews, pilots and flight attendants on standby, ready to step in if someone hits their maximum duty hours. It sounds simple, but it's not cheap. Each standby crew member represents a significant cost, often sitting idle until needed. Yet this is the only practical solution to prevent delays and ensure compliance with the law. Some airlines also adjust schedules based on historical fatigue data. Flights departing late at night or after long-haul journeys are carefully managed. Advanced software predicts when crew members will reach their limit and automatically flags conflicts. But even with technology, the human element remains unpredictable. Sleep patterns, jet lag, and personal factors mean that no system can completely eliminate the risk of fatigue. Real stories from the sky. There are stories that rarely make the headlines, like the transatlantic flight where a co-pilot fell asleep mid-flight during a long-haul leg. Thankfully, the captain was alert and everyone was safe. Or the domestic flight delayed for hours because both the assigned pilot and co-pilot had reached their legal duty limit. These incidents aren't accidents. They're examples of the rule working exactly as intended. The pilots were rested before flying, preventing a potential disaster. But for airlines, it meant scrambling to find replacements, juggling passengers, and absorbing significant costs. These stories illustrate the tension perfectly. The rule frustrates airlines and inconveniences passengers, but it prevents fatigue-related mistakes that could be catastrophic. Without it, the risks are much higher and the consequences potentially fatal. Controversial workarounds. Some airlines have tried controversial workarounds. In the past, there were reports of creative scheduling tricks, pushing crews to maximize their hours without technically violating regulations. For example, splitting long flights into segments, rotating crew midway, or using multiple crews to bypass the rest requirement. Regulators have cracked down on these tactics. The law is clear. Human fatigue cannot be ignored or negotiated. Even minor violations can lead to steep fines, grounding, and reputational damage. It's a high-stakes balancing act. Airlines want to maximize efficiency and profits, while regulators ensure safety is never compromised. And while these rules frustrate airlines, they also give passengers an invisible shield, a guarantee that the person at the controls is alert, capable, and ready. Why the rule exists and why it matters. Airline fatigue rules exist because history demands it. Some of the most devastating aviation accidents were linked directly to human fatigue. From delayed reactions to poor decision-making, exhausted pilots have caused tragedies that forever changed aviation law. Today, airlines may grumble about the financial cost, the scheduling headaches, and the occasional frustrated passenger. But in reality, the rule saves lives. Every delay caused by mandatory rest is a small price to pay for safety. And it's not just about preventing accidents. Alert pilots reduce stress, respond better to emergencies, and ensure every flight is as smooth as possible. The rule protects more than lives. It protects confidence in the entire system. The hidden battle. Airlines may publicly embrace safety, but behind closed doors, the tension remains. The rule they secretly hate is a constant reminder that profit and safety are often at odds. Executives push for efficiency. Regulators insist on rest. Pilots follow the law. And passengers remain blissfully unaware that their journey could have been drastically riskier without this invisible layer of protection. So next time you board a flight, remember this. Behind the schedules, the delays, and the occasional frustration, there's a safety net you cannot see. Airlines may grumble about it, but the rule protecting pilots from fatigue ensures that you arrive safely at your destination. Air travel is remarkable, not just because of the machines, but because of the people following rules that may be inconvenient, but life-saving. If this peek behind the scenes of aviation intrigued you, and you want more stories that airlines don't usually share, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell for our latest insights into the hidden world of air travel. You'll never look at a flight the same way again.